Morning, everyone. Or, I guess, Europe, Eastern Hemisphere, good afternoon, evening. US, West Coast, good morning, very early morning. Quick sound check. I tested this beforehand, and there were no issues, so let me know if everything is good here. Mythical, that's gotta mean Eastern Standard. 9 a.m. Okay, all right. Afternoon, you can hear me good. Awesome. Andy, Andy, by the way, I have not yet responded to your DMs. Feel free, if you want to ask those questions in chat, ask them. Otherwise, I'll hit you up afterwards, and we'll talk through what you shared. All right, we got a lot of friends here. Hustler, Tuki, hey, how's it going? Noblest, I'm not building the subway live here. I'm getting closer. If you look at my my materials, I think I am like 70% of the way there now with all the bricks. So all the concrete's there, all the glass is there, and brick is I'm getting dangerously close. So I'm hoping like the next month we'll be good to go there. Yeah, Kyle. For new player resources, definitely a couple things to check out. First would be mcphq.io. That's a site that myself and Bitcoin Baller run. All information and content sourced from the community. So all the MCP's guides, usually it seems like they try to like give us the basics and then have us figure everything else out, as a community. With MCPHQ, what we're doing is we're trying to centralize all those resources, and as we learn more and more about certain strategies and buildings and aspects of the game, so check that out. And Max, thank you so much for putting the link in there. Glitter, good morning. Hey, I'm gonna give you guys a heads up. I got a lot of stuff happening in my house right now. Little one is running around. By the sound of the dogs barking, it sounds like Nana has just showed up. So bear with me with the background noise. So, yeah, we've got and Andy, perfect. I'll hit you up after this. Awesome. So yeah, guys, we're here to share a little bit about the Tron side. For anybody who missed it earlier this week, what was it, Wednesday? Wednesday, I did something similar. I walked through my Ethereum operation and gave context on what my long-term strategy was on the Ethereum side. And I think actually it seems like it went pretty well. So I'm going to copy and paste, but now we're going to talk about the Tron side. And I specifically set up the Tron discussion for today at this time because I think most of the folks that are on the Tron side skew a little bit more towards, I guess, the Eastern Hemisphere part of the world. So timing-wise, just Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern would probably be like your 4 a.m. So strategically scheduled that discussion today. If you do want to, you can take a look. The Ethereum strategy and context, that's available for playback on Twitch. And then also, in case you missed it the other day, we did have an awesome chat with a whole bunch of people from the community as well as MCP, specifically around the potential integration of free-to-play and scholars in the Mega World and MegaCryptoPolis ecosystem. So that was a really awesome discussion. I think there was a lot of energy and a lot of great ideas there. So as the people on YouTube would say, let's jump in. So we have a lot to talk about, but I think hopefully this will be stuff that's interesting. So feel free, shoot any questions you have, toss them in chat. I will answer them as we go. This is really loose structure. I just wanted to walk everybody through, show you what I've got going on in Tron. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about specifically what I'm building in Tron, the reason why I'm building it, but also a really large portion of my operation in Tron is District 214 that I own. So we're going to have a little bit of both buildings and district talk included in there. So for the folks who are building in 214, feel free, shout out any questions, or if you want to contribute anything to chat, go for it. For the folks who aren't in 214, if you have a question, and even if it's not specifically about 214, but just like picking a district in general, feel free to drop that in there as well. I'd be happy to answer that in the most unbiased and objective manner possible. And everybody else, enjoy the ride. I have been having some technical difficulties with my computer. I've got this wonderful Dell XPS that up until last night was working absolutely perfectly, and now it is doing this thing where it will randomly restart and the charge won't work. So I think I've got it fixed for now, but if the stream does cut out all of a sudden, you will know why. I'll post any updates and stuff on Twitter. Glitter, good morning. Good morning. Let Vitaly, you are here, my friend. Man, I'll tell you what. Every time I wake up and I take our dogs out, Vitaly, I think about the picture that you posted. Was that picture propped up? I forget where you were, but of your phone with MCP on, up against the coffee mug with the ocean as the background. And no matter where I am, I always wish I was there. Yeah. Also, that 1,000 concrete, that was not easy. But huge shout out to Slat, who donated 300 concrete for the subway. So I'm super appreciative of it. Thank you, Glitter. I appreciate it. We're gonna figure it out. I'm half the equipment that's on my desk right now, I have absolutely no idea how to use. The other half, I think I know how to use, but I'm probably misusing. So we'll see. Jingo Links. Hey, how do I feel about District 216? Is 216 the one that 216 is owned by? Who is 216? I forget. I always get confused between 216 and 261. Let me check out 216. Oh, 216. Skater owns this, right? I think Skater owns it. Yes. Oh yeah. So Skater's awesome. I think the tricky part about 216, if I recall, was Ted hit it pretty hard. It was Ted, or there was some other bot. Maybe it wasn't Ted. Oh, there's Ted. Yeah, he's there. I think the tricky part about 216 was just it got hit pretty hard by bots in the opening, and for a while they were sitting on the land, not really willing to flip it for a 2 or 3x and kind of holding it out for a lot more. So 216 is, as far as I'm concerned, like, Skater's around, he's reachable. You can reach out to him on Discord. That's a huge plus. If we look at the taxes are really reasonable. Little pro tip here, if you in case you weren't aware, if you open up the district info panel here and you're looking at the taxes, if you right click on one of these, you hit inspect, it will actually pop up the window on the right, and it will tell you exactly what the percent is. I'm not going to do it because I don't know if I hit inspect if it's going to pop up with any information that you can use to figure out exactly who I am and how to get into my computer. So for the time being, we'll avoid that. Kevin, hey man. Kevin, this is going to be pretty early your time, right? When I chose 11 o'clock, I chose 11 o'clock with Europe in mind, but also with some of the folks in your area, hoping that we can get you as you're rolling out of bed. All right. So yeah, so 216, I think it also depends on what you're trying to do as well, right? So if it's just like a single plot of land and you're looking to build something, then the districts themselves aren't going to be all that different. I think if you're building specifically for the microeconomy and producing materials, that would be one thing. If you're buying land or building for world, that would be another. There's just a lot more you have to take into consideration around location, the ability for your land to appreciate over time. But if you're just building a level 1 of anything, anywhere, the district actually is going to matter that much, because the taxes, even if taxes that are 100% on a level 1 construction, the impact is minimal. What really hurts are districts with policies that aren't exactly super developer friendly when you start to get into like level 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 upgrades, because that's where it starts to get really expensive. You're talking about over 2 times as expensive to build a level 7 in a 100% district, tax district, versus a 0%. So definitely something to keep in mind. All right. So I started playing MCP back in, I think, early 2020. I might have dabbled a little bit in late 2019, but early 2020. And at the time, I think the Tron world was just starting to come out. I hadn't really looked into it. I had already started to build on the Ethereum side, and admittedly, I think I had a little bit of a bias against the Tron map, and that was really for, I think, 2 reasons primarily. One was I spent a lot of time talking to lots of the folks who were really early adopters of MCP. And back at that time, I think lots of them purchased their districts, their land, and they took the approach they took because they were under the impression that there would only ever be one map. And fast forward to March of 2020, the Tron world rolls out. So I think there were some folks that were really kind of caught off guard by that, and admittedly, I would have been too. I probably would have been pretty pissed. So out of the gate, I kind of had this thinking of like, I'm not going to touch Tron. I've already started building Ethereum. I'm just going to keep going there. And MCP had shared, like the Ethereum world and the Tron world might be connected one day via an airport, but there just wasn't a lot of information about how we were going to be able to leverage any assets that we had on Ethereum to help us in Tron and vice versa. So I probably could have jumped in. I could have definitely jumped in much, much earlier, and probably set myself up for a lot more success early on, but I didn't. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about like why I didn't, and when I finally did make that move, the reasons behind it and what I did. But so I spent a whole bunch of time building out my Ethereum operation, and around maybe August of 2020, I finally started to come around to the Tron world, and it really kind of hit me as, why am I not playing in Tron during the height of the Ethereum gas issues, right? If we all remember that, those were the days when we didn't have Polygon, and to collect from a building costs like 0.02 Ethereum, even if you're just collecting energy. And at the time, luckily Ethereum was at like $400, so it hurt, but it didn't kill like today. And now that gas fee is just absolutely soul crushing. So the biggest motivator for me at first was the fact that even though I loved playing on the Ethereum side and had this awesome operation, going on that side, it was just becoming really, really cost prohibitive. And I hated that there were actually some days and weeks that I didn't collect because gas was just too expensive. And it gave me the idea of like, all right, well, the great thing about Tron is even if I don't necessarily understand the map or even agree with its existence per se, and the fact that it lacked any dependence on the Ethereum world, I get to play MCP every day again, and that's what I really, really wanted. So initially, I came over to Tron mostly because I wanted to be able to play every day. I wanted to be hedged in the event that the gas situation didn't resolve itself. But also, as me and Ball were working to build out MCP HQ, there was this concept emerging of like, we really are a global community, and it's not a one map community. And I spent a lot of time talking to people about, MCP isn't Ethereum or Tron. It is both. The two of them together is what makes MCP. So more than anything, I think I came over to Tron, or started looking for opportunities to come over to Tron, because I felt like there were a lot of people in the community that I just didn't really have any kind of relationship with or understanding as to what's important to them. So if we're going to build out MCP HQ, how on earth are we going to build it in a community-centric manner if I don't even understand half of the community? So that was a really, really big motivator in that decision. And I think the other motivator was the fact that at the time, the price of Ethereum started to take off, but Tron lagged behind, as the Tron coin likes to do. So it was a little bit of me looking and saying, okay, well, for $1,000, if I brought another $1,000 in, I could do this in Ethereum, or with that same 1,000, here's what I could do on the Tron side. And my gut tells me that at some point in time, the two world economies are going to be very, very similar, at least in terms of value. The vaults are different. There are different dynamics within the economy, but with the Mega token itself, I have to believe that at some point, having an operation on both the Ethereum side and the Tron side is going to be helpful. Fast forward, and they started opening up districts. I've always wanted to own a district, and I waited and waited and waited, and then eventually District 214 came around, and Dr. Yakub at the time, I think he still is buying some districts, but he had purchased 214 at auction and hadn't opened it. And I looked at the district, I looked at the placement on the map. It's on the coast. It is surrounded on 3 or 4 sides by water. And it just felt like this was the opportunity that I'd been waiting for. So I reached out to him and I ended up purchasing it from him. So I came over into Tron not actually to build buildings, but to own a district, manage and develop it, and try to develop a community around a singular district, get to know the game, get to know the people, get to know the economy. And I actually had zero intentions of building anything. In the very, very early days of purchasing District 214 and talking to Bevins and a handful of other folks, it was lots of times they would ask me like, well, what are you going to build? When are you going to build? What are you going to do? And I was very, very adamant. I'm not building anything. I am just here to manage this district, to guide it, to provide the resources needed for everybody else to build and thrive in it. But I'm all set for now. I'm going to focus on the Ethereum side. And what we're going to walk through today's show is that sentiment was short-lived. Oh, Hustler, yeah, you did go all in on Tron. If you look at, so if anybody goes to District 2, we're actually going to do this for a second. Hustler, I got to show people what the incredible portfolio that you have amassed, and you have got to be super excited for World. I'm going to show you guys why Hustler has got to be absolutely psyched for World. Because, so here's the tower. Here's where everybody's going to land. You see all this open soul land over here. Nothing's really built on it. This is Hustlerville, okay? Every single thing that is owned here is owned by Crypto Hustler. And I got to tell you, like, I really, really respect the foresight. I'm going to switch this so you can actually see. I really, really respect the foresight that you had to not just buy land and just build a whole bunch of megas on it, but also being able to say, hey, this land's going to be really, really valuable in the near future. Mythical Yeti. I love that name so much. What would I pick for the next chain? To be honest, so I actually, when I started in MCP, I didn't start because I was like a big crypto enthusiast. I had some that I had bought, but I'm actually, it's one of those things, I'm not here so much for the technology, but for the concept. And I think for me, the next chain that we're talking about, it's actually, to me, it's not so much about what should the next chain or city be. I assume that there will always be another chain or another city that they roll out at the appropriate time once both the Ethereum world and the Tron world have matured and the introduction of a new city doesn't skew that supply and demand or scarcity mix for land. That's most important. The second thing is going to be the introduction of a third map, city, whatever you want to call it. I think the next city that they introduce, if they do, has to have an immensely strong dependence on both the Ethereum and the Tron side. And where I'm going with that is I think they have to switch up the playbook a little bit and not copy and paste the same formulas and mechanics as they have on Ethereum and Tron, because everything's the same. Same buildings with the exception of steel and concrete. Same stuff, same formulas, same requirements. And that third world, ideally for me, would actually be a world that is run purely on the Mega token and the World token. So let's use Ethereum and Tron to mine that Mega, and then the dependence for that third chain is actually very heavily on Mega versus Bitcoin versus Solana or anything like that. Alternatively, there has been a lot of talk in the past about a stablecoin chain. I think that offers a couple interesting opportunities, but there are also some drawbacks to that too. Kevin, yeah, I think 214. It feels like Destiny. It does. Dennis, hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining. Yeah, Andy, I have to remember when I'm talking. When I start talking, I try to switch over so you can see my face, and then I forget that I'm doing the map and I got to switch screens. I'm gonna get better with that. All right, so returning to the map. So you've seen Hustler's empire over here. So 214, I kind of started out about again. I bought the district. I didn't buy any land in the opening. I didn't put any capital aside. I literally bought the district and was just like, all right, let's do this. I'm going to take everything that I've learned about district development and management from other folks in the community, people I've worked with, people I've consulted with, and I really want to bring to life a district that has all the qualities that I love about all the districts in Ethereum and Tron, but also addresses some of the challenges that I personally have had as a land developer on the Ethereum side. So it's like, take the best of both worlds and approach district ownership and development not as a district owner, but as like the district owner for land developers. So that was my intention. So district opened, and I had no cash on hand. I didn't buy any land, and I didn't buy any land because I said, I'm not going to need it for anything. The only land I was planning on buying was out of the gate. I really, really, really wanted to do something with POIs because at the time there really weren't any districts that had taken the time to zone anything out, and especially not zone anything out from the actual opening of the district. Lots of districts have zoning plans in place, but they're owners that have purchased the district after it opened, and they didn't really have a chance from day one to ensure the district and specific parts of the map developed in an optimal manner. So I put all my time, emphasis, and focus on making sure that from day one, what we were doing was anybody buying land in 214 knew exactly what the plan was for that area, and you were buying land not because it was the cheapest plot on the map, but because you know that that area was going to be specifically set aside and optimized for industrial or residential or office and so on. And as Hustler says in chat here, Ted really seemed to like District 214. So for those of you who don't know, Ted is our community land acquisition specialist, we'll call him. And day one, Ted purchased, I think, like 400 plots of land in Dubai, which was great at the time initially because of the revenue from the land. The challenge, though, became that he purchased plots like just everywhere. So there were lots of places that were blocked from 1x2 and 2x2 development. And if you own a district, you know, or you will know, that you're really, really dependent on those high-level upgrades. And in times when the economy is booming, those speed-ups are what really, like, that's your bread and butter from a revenue perspective, the speed-ups and the high-level upgrades. And when you've got somebody blocking all of those sites and people can't build level 6s or level 7s, that means that the speed-ups are not going to be as frequent. The revenue is not going to be as good. Like, there's a lot of headwinds when something like that happens. Oh, Kevin, thank you about the maps. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool, right? Vitaly, you do need a district. You guys definitely do need a district. Because when you stop and think about it, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, but when you stop and think about it, if you look at the price of a district relative to the price to build a mega, that was the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Vitaly, because that was the other thing in my mind when I looked at it. I had toyed with coming over to Tron and starting to build some buildings, and when I looked at the price that it was going to cost to build, because at the time the economy was taking off, it actually, I think, would have cost just as much to build like a mega industrial as it would have to buy the district. And to me, I was like, I'd much rather have a district than a single mega building. And that was, I think, the thing that clinched purchasing the district versus purchasing a building or land specifically. Jingo, Kevin, Mythical, Glitter, Andy, I appreciate the follows. Yeah, when we talk about, when we talk about Ted, I think some blood pressure rises a little bit. But I like to think that overall, Ted's actually a really, really good person, and I think he's shown that. I guess it's a double-edged sword. He's got all the land for a reason. He doesn't sell it cheap for a reason. I guess that's possibly or partially because of how well things have developed. And hopefully, in the long run, he sees that it's in his best interest to help us continue to build, to help us free up this land. And in doing so, it's going to make all the other land that he holds onto that much more valuable, because the more this district can develop, the more his land is going to appreciate over time. He's been trying to buy you out in 214? Really? I need to know more about that, hustler. Yeah, Yeti, we do need to have a talk with... I'd love to have a talk with Ted. Even just, like, I've said from day one, I don't care if you used a bot to get the land. Like, I don't agree with it. However, like, if I had the means and I knew how to do that, I'll be honest, I would have a hard time passing up really, really cheap land in MegaCryptoPolis. So I don't blame them. I would just love additional communication so that we can all figure out what we can do to improve everybody's situation. So do you want to do a giveaway? What land of yours are we giving away? Or you want me to give something away? Is my strategy not enough? I do, Kevin. I wrote him a poem. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. So what was I talking about? All right, buying District 214. The opening comes. I really only have a little bit of cash on hand just to buy some land for POIs. But again, I have no plans on purchasing any land for myself. So what I ended up doing was day one went off really, really well. A whole bunch of people bought land. And what I was able to do was really over the course of probably like 2 weeks, I think, 2-3 weeks maybe, I ended up building 6 landmarks. So it started with, I'll just kind of walk around the map. But each portion of the district, before it opened, there was a PowerPoint deck and a PDF shared with the community that said, okay, here's exactly what each part of the map is going to be used for. So please, if you're buying land, buy land knowing that if you're buying land for residential here, that's probably not a great idea because this is going to be an industrial zone. And the POIs, the great thing about these, while they were really, really expensive at the time, I think these things, with the cost of materials at that point, they were like 70 or 80,000 Tron each, and that's for the land, the 18,000 Tron for the construction costs, and then all the materials. So when I look back and I think about how expensive those things were, it hits, but I would not change a single thing. And these were funded essentially with the money that came in from folks buying. So it was an easy decision to make. So the first thing we did was we built this industrial landmark, covers this entire area. So right out of the gate, people know, hey, if I'm building industrial, whether it's a level 1 or a level 7, this is a place to go. And then what I tried to do was set things up in a way where there was always, we were reducing the risk that people who were going to come in and build level 1 industrials, which at the time was like, Tron was just getting spammed with level 1 industrials, to the point where it was any land that was even slightly cheap was going to get purchased and a level 1 was going to get dropped on, and just pray that there was no residential nearby. So I had to develop from day one a little bit of a strategy on how I was going to help keep the industrials in check so that the rest of the map didn't become obsolete for residential. Because residential buildings, as a district owner, that's actually one of your better sources of tax revenue, because it does cost a decent chunk to breed a citizen, and you get a portion of that money back, right? And it also helps the district fund. So residential actually plays a really, really, really critical role in the broader, I guess, revenue management for a district owner. So I have to protect those at all costs. And the best way to protect them is to be able to ensure that you can keep industrials out. But how do you keep industrials out when anybody who can just buy cheap land can build it? And there's nothing that's going to hurt an industrial building. Residential doesn't hurt industrial, and therefore, there's really, besides the fact that you're hurting somebody else, there's nothing to keep that person in check from just building a whole bunch of industrials, which, to Ted's credit, he has followed zoning to a T, has never once built anything that would hurt another sector. So pretty early on, one of the things that I took from the Ethereum side, which I really didn't like, that a lot of district owners do, is they have pretty typical taxes, but the office taxes are jacked up to 100%. The offices are jacked up to 100%, typically because the district owner builds a district office so that they can get not just the tax revenue they get as a district owner, but also a portion of the district fund. So it's definitely, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It is completely legal. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. However, when I bought this district, in my mind, my revenue was going to come from lots of people building, and I didn't want to hoard that district fund. I think that the people who build and spend a lot of money in the district should be able to also build an office to get a lot of that money back. And the more people with district offices that are in 214, the more people I know are directly or indirectly going to help me bring in more people to the district, because now it's in your best interest. If you have a level 7 office in 214, you should want other people to come in and build, because you're going to get a portion of those proceeds. So I think that was really critical. So I ensured from day one that office taxes were at the absolute lowest I could possibly go. So I think they're at like 5% for construction. And what that allowed me to do is now I could create these zones that had office POIs and use office zones as transitional zones from industrial to residential. So if you're setting up zoning, the thing you really want to be able to do is you want to be able to take wherever your industrial hubs are, and without wasting land, you want to ensure that you've got industrial, and then there's a zone of office that is helping your industrial, and then also right next to that in a residential zone that is helping the IP of the offices, but the offices are also helping the residential, and they're protecting the residential from industrial. So that's what we did here, which is an office zone. So this is an office landmark, and then a residential landmark, followed by another office landmark, followed by another residential landmark. And the plan is or was that there would actually be eventually another office POI somewhere over here, which would be, again, like creating that transitional zone from industrial over to residential. Land just got crazy expensive. Ted's blocking a couple plots here, so it just didn't make an office POI realistic yet. So we built that. So we've got a residential zone here. This is Noblis's level 7. Kevin's got his level 6 up. Whole bunch of awesome stuff. And the awesome thing is all these office buildings are creating an area of really valuable land, because the land next to them is awesome for other offices, it's awesome for other residentials, and in theory for some of these areas that are away from residentials, it also creates a nice place for industrials to get built up. So we've got residential, office, another residential, and then all the way up here, we created a second industrial zone, and there's another industrial landmark here. So across the map, essentially from day one, if you have a certain thing you want to build, there's a landmark that's going to be able to provide you bonuses. And as soon as these things went up, the land value all around it shot up, because everybody wants land near a POI. And I think there's actually also a lot of tailwinds with the POI, because MCP's talked a lot about making them more powerful. So you've got super appliances. Presumably there will be additional value propositions and utility for them as we go forward. So anybody who has land here, like, it's providing a nice boost and bonus now, but in the future I would anticipate that super appliances and other stuff will make that land even more valuable. So that was the first thing I did, was I just built all these POIs in a very strategic manner. Nothing was placed randomly, everything was done intentionally. And I sat back and I was like, this is great. This is wonderful. I love it. And everybody started building a lot and a lot faster than I was expecting. It was slow at first, and Bevan said kind of warned me, like, no, like, just give it time because people are finishing up projects in other districts, and when they're done with those projects, they're going to come here. And, you know, I mean, look at this. This is a beautiful, beautiful area. It's downtown. This is going to look amazing in world. Whole bunch of business centers and offices, creating really, really high IP areas for residentials, more offices here. It's really making the whole map look really, really beautiful. So I stand by all those decisions so far. Yeah, Kevin, that's selfishly when I was building them, and in my mind I rationalized. So Kevin says hopefully those POIs make you mega a world if they implement that idea. And admittedly, in the back of my mind, when I was thinking through, okay, should I spend this money to do this? It seemed like a no-brainer from the perspective of this is what I would want my district owner to do. And therefore, like, my guiding principle is be the district owner that I wish I had everywhere else. But in the back of my mind, Kevin, I will admit, I am kind of betting a little bit on the future, being that POIs will become a source of some type of revenue, whether it be through storefronts, like tourist destinations where you can charge world, or disbursement of a mega or a world fund. So that is there. I'm still hoping that comes to life a little bit. Noblis says Ted's a good person. You just have to be patient and offer him interesting offers. And he built some buildings to help him and show me. And that's exactly it. He gets a bad rap, but when all is said and done, I think we have to be realistic in what we offer him for his land, whether we like it or not. I mean, the floor price of unsold land in Dubai right now is like 2,300 Tron. And he's got prime real estate. So should he be getting offers for 2,500 Tron? No, probably not. He probably shouldn't be willing to sell anything for less than 5,000 Tron. Personally, I hope that he gives me a break on some things, because let's be realistic. The reason why his land is as valuable as it is because of the 600,000 Tron that I put into the district to build all this stuff up. But that's a point for another day. Cider says, what can I do with my building ideas? What's your building? You're talking about the stuff that you have in other districts? Yeah, Kevin, on the business centers and offices, it would be cool if you could incentivize business centers being built disproportionately to those offices. That would make a lot of sense. Kyle, yes, I do still own District 214. 214, I have no plans on selling for a couple of reasons. One, regulation is going to hit this industry at some point in the near future, I'm sure. And I don't want to do anything until I know exactly what I owe anybody and everyone. So for the big part, it's mostly motivated by the fact that I don't want to make any moves until I know exactly how I have to pay the government and all that stuff. The second piece is, in all honesty, I would probably rather part with my Ethereum operation than the district, because I think the way things are going with World, the district owner and district development and management actually has a lot of really, really intriguing opportunities that I think could be cool to hold on to. And then also, I guess from the other perspective is, at some point in time, I'm going to want to quit my job. And the district does offer, depending on what they do with World, the district could offer a really, really intriguing source of passive income that would either allow me to tell Mrs. Bava, leave your job, you're done, don't worry about it, or potentially myself as well. So that passive income source, even though it's not phenomenal at this point, it's tough to let go. Cider, it's normal that one level 2 is more expensive to collect, and I collect less than that level 1. Oh, that's weird. Probably has something to do with the IP. It must have something to do, because your level 1 and your level 2, if you have a really high IP level 1, but a low IP level 2, that might create that disparity. And because you're collecting every 6 days versus 7 days, over the course of the entire year, that level 2 will still outproduce your level 1. It's just not going to outproduce it on a collection basis. But even if you were to average it out over the course of 7 days, that level 2 probably still outproduces level 1 when you apply the fact that level 2 collects every 6 days. So technically, you should kind of bring that up and make it, like, think about it as if it was averaged out over the course of 7 days. All right, so built out all this stuff. Everybody started coming in and building, and I'm going to admit that the FOMO started to get really, really real. Between the FOMO and Bevan's constantly poking me saying, you should build, you're going to regret not building. And I eventually gave in. So I had to figure out, because again, I came over to Tron without any plan of building. It was buy the district, put up the POIs, and then any money that I was able to get from the district, reinvest it back in the district, and just, it was going to be public works. So I didn't come in with a plan, and I didn't have any land. I had all these POIs up, but I had no land near any of them. And it was, I'm glad that the sequence of events transpired the way they did, because I truly believe that those POIs are for the community, they're not for me. I didn't build them for me, I built them for the community, and therefore you will not see, with the exception of one place, which I bought land off of somebody, I bought buildings off of somebody else that had already owned them. I haven't built anything in range of the POIs. I'm going to take care of all that stuff myself. So first thing I did was I looked around the map, and I knew a couple things. So on the Ethereum side, I currently produce, or I'm able to produce, about 115,000, 120,000 energy per day, around 10 to 12,000 water per day, and about 70 units of steel. So on the Ethereum side, I've got a fully vertically integrated supply chain that's capable of producing massive quantities of energy and water. And that's not even speed ups. With speed ups, I'm talking like 250,000 energy per day. It's crazy. So I thought about it, and I was like, one of the big reasons why I didn't want to build anything on the Tron side was I didn't want to have to invest in that whole damn energy grid supply chain all over again. Like, it took me so long to build on the Ethereum side. Like, I just mentally, I could not bring myself to do that. So I wanted to adopt a slightly different approach, and I figured that at some point in time, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll be able to bring over materials from Ethereum to Tron, but I'm not banking on it. So what I figured out pretty early on was, because there are other people that play on both the Ethereum and Tron maps, I might actually be able to leverage my Ethereum supply chain to help offset or augment my Tron supply chain without actually bringing the materials over myself. So what I figured was I would forego building out or purchasing a whole bunch of land with resources to build a whole bunch of mega energies and mega waters, and instead I would try to find people who are in Tron that I could swap my Ethereum energy and water with for Tron energy and water. And that allows me the ability to focus on additional sectors instead of having to sink a whole bunch of money in energy infrastructure. The plan is still, in the long term, I do need to have all that stuff available for myself, but in the near term, it doesn't make sense for me to invest a whole bunch of money and capital in energy when I could spend that same capital on industrial and use that trade partnership to provide energy and water for my industrial buildings on Tron. So I came over to this area, and you're going to see a lot of green signs over here. And this became the area. There was pretty much nobody building over here. It was very, very empty. But if we look at the map, the resource overlay, what you'll see is there's a whole bunch of resource plots here, which means this is a great area for energy. It's also going to be a phenomenal area for industrial. And I looked at this one area of the map specifically, right over here, and I loved it because you had room to not only build energy, but also a handful of different industrial sites as well that would feed off of that energy. And there's also room too for production buildings. So it seemed like the great area. If there ever was going to be a time that I'd build a compound of buildings, this was going to be that perfect area. So I went through and through a series of trades, as well as just buying land off the market, I was able to purchase a whole bunch of this land. So you can see anything that's highlighted in that like really crisp blue is land that I own right now. So I started off by buying as many of the resource plots as I could, because I know I don't need them now, but I will need or want them in the future. And even if I don't end up using them, I'm sure that I'll be able to find somebody to come in to develop them. So I figured they're at the bare minimum a good long-term hold. So I bought 2 plots over here for water. I ended up buying these 3 plots over here for energy, bought one off of Tarantino. I bought these 2 plots over here, and these 2. So I have in total, what, a 1x2, 1, 2. I've got 2 sites that I can build a level 6 energy on. I've got this 1 site that I can go to level 7 on, and I've got this 1 site for a level 6 water. So in theory, I could use a little bit more, but I'm set for now. And then I went and I bought up all of this land over here. Some I bought some from some existing players, others I just bought off the market. But this gives me the ability to put 1, 2, 3, at the bare minimum 4 mega industrials here. Right now I have this area anchored with 4 level 1 business centers that aren't staffed, because these business centers are providing positive IP boosts for the industrial buildings. So these industrial buildings, despite them being level 1, have a really, really high IP, 575, and they're being boosted by this industrial monument, which is giving them that 5% production bonus, but it's also removing all that negative IP. So these buildings are placeholders, because what I was hoping for was that Ted owns this plot, Ted owns this plot, and I was going to be able to purchase this 2x2 and this 2x2, and then put up an industrial landmark over here, which would ultimately end up feeding 7 different industrial megas, which would all be pretty high IP. I could purchase these other plots of land, drop level 1 offices on for IP help, but ultimately Ted hasn't seemed interested in parting ways with either of these plots, so I'm going to forget about that for now. But the idea here is that this would become like this really, really massive hub of industrial. And the reason why I went so industrial heavy, because I've got industrial here, and then I've got this 2x2 site over here for a smelter, and then the last site that I have set up for industrial is, I think, Show Me. I think I bought this off of Show Me, but this 2x2 site over here in range of this POI. So I went super, super industrial heavy, because what's interesting about Tron is, like, when you get into glass and concrete, the amount of energy that you need to build to be able to support those buildings is insane. And I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money on energy infrastructure, which I did on the Ethereum side. And I also figured that if I played my cards right, I could actually just trade my energy and water from Ethereum to somebody on Tron for Tron energy and water. Plenty for industrial, because industrial buildings don't really require a whole heck of a lot of energy to be powered. So if I could leverage my Ethereum supply chain indirectly for Tron, we'll just build out a whole bunch of industrial. And then because the vault exists, I'll just take those materials, and when I need concrete, bricks, glass, I'll swap them to the vault, and I'll have 7, 8 different industrials producing a whole bunch of metal, stone, sand, and wood, which I'd be able to swap for concrete and glass as needed. So in my mind, that was like a pretty nifty way of saving a whole bunch of money, but still having the ability to acquire those materials when I needed them. And then the other reason why I went super, super heavy in industrial was the plan has, and still is, not to leverage my buildings to continue building myself, but to provide free or extremely cheap resources back to the 214 community so that they can in turn continue to build and upgrade. And the reason why that makes so much sense for me is, even if they're free materials, who cares? Because the more people build and upgrade, the more the fund is going to go up, the more tax revenue I'm going to get. But also, if they're upgrading their buildings, if you upgrade your building from a level 1 to a level 2, I may only get like 4 or 5 Tron from your tax. However, you're now collecting every 6 days instead of every 7 days. So over the course of a year, you now collect, what, like 52 times more than you would normally? Or maybe I've done that math wrong, I don't know. But essentially, every time you upgrade, we add the ability for you to make more and more collections over the course of a 52-week period. And therefore, my ability to generate passive revenue from your operation increases. So the name of the game for me is all about getting people from the level that they're at to upgrading to one more level, because that's what's going to be able to give me the best source of long-term passive revenue. It's good for me, it's good for them. In my opinion, it doesn't make any sense to ever have a building long-term that is anything besides level 1 or level 7. Everything in between, maybe level 6, everything in between requires too many citizens and doesn't give you enough incremental output to justify that cost, in my mind. So over here, big area full of nothing but industrial. You're going to notice I haven't built a single production building. As much as I want to, I probably won't build a production building at all until all these industrial megas are up. And these industrial megas aren't going up until I've got all the transportation stuff done. So one thing that we had kind of that really surprised me and threw me off course was the transportation updates, right? Where now all of a sudden districts need a metro station, they need bus stops, they need all of this stuff. And the good news is that none of those things require any Tron to construct for the most part, but they do require massive amounts of resources, which, as you can clearly see, I do not have the footprint to produce that stuff myself. So I have to, for the next, I'm assuming the next like 4, 5, 6 months, everything that I get from the district goes right back into purchasing Mega to get resources. So we have a metro station that will hopefully be built pretty soon. That's going to go right over here in this 2x2 site. And the reason why I picked this site is a couple reasons. One is when you walk out the subway, this is the area that I want you to see. I want this to be visible in the distance. Also, it's relatively equidistant between all the 4 corners of the Dubai map. So it's not perfectly centered, but it is damn close to being centered relative to all the major hubs. And I assume that location is going to play a vital role. It's also an area where, because I'm building it here and I'm building near a whole bunch of people that have already bought land and built their buildings, I'm hoping that I'm further increasing the value of their land. And then last, but certainly not least, and probably one of the larger motivators, is this is an area where there's still open land. And given the fact that this subway needs 1,000 concrete, 5,000 glass, and 15,000 brick, which let's just really quickly do some math here. Let's see what this would cost. So if I wanted 1,000 concrete, 280 mega, 5,000 glass, 264, so what, 540 meg we're up to. And then brick, 442 mega. So you're talking, let's just round a little bit, 1,000 mega to build a metro station, which is an astronomical cost. It's crazy, right? So in order for this to be something that I can actually not justify, because I can justify because it's something that the district needs, and I will always do whatever the district needs, but this land, as it gets purchased near the subway, I think that over the course of time, I'll be able to make back a good chunk of that money, which I can then reinvest in more public transportation. I can use to finish industrial buildings. So ideally, once this is built, and as more information from World comes out, people are going to want to purchase this 2x2, this one, these 1x2s, this one. So there's plenty of land nearby that I can get some revenue from in the future. And the name of the game for me is, because I've put so much into this district, you're going to see that while my tax policies are really like they're the lowest on the Tron side. There are certain sectors and certain other districts that have the same energy I'm higher on, but it's because nobody else besides myself and Ted. Hustler does have some energy, but there were no energy megas, so making this energy tax 35% allowed me to bring everything else down. But the only policy that I have that's rather aggressive is this initial land plot price set to 75%. It's actually going to be going up to 100% in 14 days. But that initial land plot price setting, that's what allows me to recoup money. So over the course of time, I'm banking on the value of this unsold land continuing to go up, and that being the primary driver of that revenue for me that will allow me to, again, put more and more back into the district. Bevins is here. Hey, buddy. I've been talking a lot about you. I'm not sure when you joined, but I've been talking a lot about you. I was blaming you for the fact that I've built in Tron besides the POIs. I could have been happy just being a district owner, sitting back, not collecting, not worrying about anything. But no. Nope. You had to convince me. Although I am appreciative of it. Yeah, so we got subways going there. And then the other thing that we had discussed as a community was when public transportation came out, I think we just don't know enough about it. So we don't know what the value proposition is. We don't know if there's going to be any source of revenue or income from it. All we know is that bus stops require 100 concrete, 500 glass, and 1,000 bricks. So even that is crazy expensive. And to make matters worse, they require level 3 commercial, which in Dubai, a level 3 is going to run about 1,000 Tron in tax, so $100. But we don't know what the role of commercials are going to be in world. And we don't know if there's going to be any difference between a supermarket and a trade center. Personally, I assume that there will be a difference. So one of my biggest challenges coming up is going to be after that subway station gets built. Next, I need to turn my attention to building out all the bus stops, which I have almost all the land for. Anywhere where you see land owned by me that doesn't have anything built and it's just a 1x1 plot is almost like 90% a bus stop or a future bus stop. Like over here, I've got one. Over here, I've got one. So they're placed all around the map. And the plan is name those bus stops after the people that are making the 214 community great. But the issue I have is I can't build the bus stops until I know exactly what a supermarket or a trade center is going to do, because I have to figure out, I can't spend the money to build a supermarket and then build a bus stop there and then find out a month from now that, hey, you know what? You actually really want trade centers, or supermarkets are going to be able to do this for a person in the world, trade centers are going to be able to do that. So my plan is to continue to accumulate materials, but not actually build any of those out until I really know what those buildings are going to do for us in the future. Because the last thing I want to do is build a whole bunch of supermarkets and then find out, hey, you know what? The perfect transportation strategy is actually, half supermarket, half trade center, because supermarket's going to help avatars restore stamina, whereas trade centers are a place where you can go and turn in missions, so to speak. So that's the thing that currently keeps me awake at night, is figuring out how I'm going to do that without shooting myself in the foot. Yeah, Bevan, there's a spot here that's calling your name. I think there's a couple spots actually. Like, look, you've got all this land over here. You don't even have any land over here. Like, you should definitely consider buying these plots over here. Jingo, is there a way to reach out to district owner on Tuesday? Yes, there is. So if you're in the MCP Discord, his name, he's a mod. He is, I can look it up for you right now. He is Skater. Let's see if he's online. He's not online, but he's a moderator, and his name is SK. Oh, I can just put it in chat. See, man, I always forget that I have a keyboard here. Something like this, I believe. I think that's his username on Discord. So you can shoot him a DM, and he normally gets back pretty quickly. But yeah, reach out to him. Pulsar, did you miss something? You missed everything. But playback as possible. No, we were just talking. I was kind of giving everybody the rundown about how I came over to Tron, why I came over to Tron, and just the underlying strategy behind District 214. Yeah, so you missed pretty much everything. You can't. Oh, all right. Then you know what? Just go drop in the 216 chat. Just tag him there, and he should be able to see it. Kevin, great question. So Kevin asks, what has been your citizen strategy in Tron? Citizen strategy in Tron, much like my citizen strategy in Ethereum, is that I really have no strategy. Citizens are Citizens has been my Achilles heel, and it's tough for me because to breed the right way is very expensive because you need a level 7. You need really, really good breeding stock. So your A55s or B45s, whatever you're breeding, they have to be good because they set the standard and the benchmark for what your next generation is going to be. So you can't skimp out on your breeding stock. And you have to have pets, right? Regardless of, I think MCP has said that pets have no impact, but I'm pretty sure that everybody in the community has indicated that that is not necessarily the case. So you're talking about to start a breeding operation, forget about building the level 7 or the land or anything like that. You're talking about a really, really, really big outlay of capital just for that breeding stock. Then you have to buy or build the level 7 because if you're going to be doing heavy breeding, like you can't, a long-term rental is going to be really expensive too. Like even Noblesse, I think Noblesse and Bevins, you guys have been renting out some level 7s around the 400, 500 Tron mark per day. And that's that's super, super fair, but also expensive over the course of 3, 4, 5 months that you would need to breed your A's into B's, your B's into C's, and so on. So for me, it's like this headache. And I keep saying like my strategy for citizens is that's a problem for future Baba. Like present Baba right now is all about building stuff for the district, getting the industrials up. And whenever I need citizens, my citizen strategy is send a DM to Bevins and say, hey, I'm looking for industrial citizens. What do you have that you haven't sold yet that you can sell to a buddy and help me out? So lots of my citizens have come from Bevins. And the great thing too is we got Noblesse producing citizens now in 214. So ideally, if I could go back and do it all over again, I probably still wouldn't change anything, but I would. It's tough now. If you're going to go big in this game, I think you have to be prepared to breed yourself because those costs of citizens can get really, really expensive. And also, the more we talk about, like on Thursday when we had our stream with MCP about Mega World, we talked a lot about the role of citizens in the economy going forward. And to be very, very careful, I think one of the other things too is I haven't gone and done any breeding yet because I'm pushing really, really, really hard, and I'm going to continue to push really hard to unlock free-to-play for scholars and make citizens the asset to have and own. A citizen is the equivalent of an Axie, or try to make it that way. And I feel like if I have a really, really large breeding operation, it won't be taken as seriously because it's me pushing for something that's going to benefit me directly, whereas me not breeding at all, like literally, I think I've bred a handful of A's in like level 1s my first couple weeks on the Ethereum side. I'm able to come to the table and prepare and produce these ideas and have these discussions, and nobody can come to me and say, oh, well, yeah, he's doing this because it's selfish. So at the bare minimum, I can say, hey, you know what? This is out here. I think this is a great idea for the game in total and community. And yeah, it's going to help me in the long term because the more the game grows, the better for me. But it's not going to help me directly because I'm not breeding or producing or selling citizens. Bob Duncan, welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess when all is said and done, citizens for me are the cost of doing business and that necessary evil. Because I'm going with an industrial heavy operation and I'm going for volume of buildings over like perfecting their IP. I'm looking for like that middle tier citizen that's good enough to get me good yield, but not so good that it is super, super expensive and actually prevents me from doing something else or building something else. So I think I tend to get the citizens I need to get the job done with the intention of in the future, as the operation becomes profitable or more profitable, eventually reinvesting some of those profits into optimizing both the IP and the underlying workforce. Bevins asks, have I considered municipals and placements in future upgrades? So consideration for municipals, here's what's always on my mind. The tax policies in Dubai are possible because I can shift all the taxes over to municipal because nobody builds them, because they are, for all intent and purposes, borderline obsolete. The day is going to come that that's not going to be true anymore. And when that happens, we're going to have to take, in order to bring municipal taxes down from 80% to something more reasonable, we're going to have to pull from something else. So that's the first thing about municipals that gives me a little bit of agita. But as far as placement for that stuff goes, I think the great news is we've got these areas that are prepared for them. We've got two major residential zones, right? So we've got this area over here, and then we also have this, which you can't see. Hold on, you can now see. We have this area over here, and then this cluster over here. And both of them, the good news is both of them have open areas. We also have cushioning along each of these where we could extend these zones out. And then there are a couple places on the map still too, like over here, that really aren't built out industrial heavy yet. They certainly could be good industrial areas, but as a community, we could come together and say, hey, you know what, like this is the place we're going to make, municipals are going to play a critical role, and therefore, like, come on, let's clear out some of these industrials and make this perfect for municipals. I think that could occur as well. And then there's one more area over here, again, super light on industrial, out of range of the POI, that there could always be some opportunities there. But yeah, to be honest, Bevins, I haven't given too much thought. I mean, I'm thinking about it in terms of, I'm assuming that at some point they're going to become hyper relevant and we're going to need a place for them. And I'm going to need to bring taxes down to help them get built. And I may even need to build some myself for the district. But that, much like the citizen question, is that's a future Baba problem. Yeah, Bob, I mean, you're spot on, right? The tricky part with streaming MCP, and like, look, I'm a week and a half in, and there's going to come a point in time in the next month that I'm going to run out of content, right? The content's going to have to come from the community saying, this is what we want to hear, this is what we want to talk about, because there's no real gameplay yet. With World coming out, there will be gameplay. But with this, like, I can walk you through my collections. I can say, hey, look, I'm going to spend the next 13 minutes collecting my buildings, but then what are we going to talk about? So I think streaming MCP until World comes out is actually going to be really, really heavily dependent on you guys joining and chatting and asking questions. Because what that allows me to do is I have to show up and I have to be prepared to talk about things, but I don't have to have this like such structured agenda that is inflexible, and I have a whole bunch of stuff to prepare for. So the more we can chat and the more questions you guys can bring in, it'll just be a huge, huge help, because that's where all the value is. It's all the conversations that we want to have in Discord, but A, don't want people yelling at us if they don't agree with us, and B, like, we just don't want to type all the stuff out, right? Yep, also, exactly. Yep. Quantity over quality at first. And I'm able to do quantity over quality because I'm not building production buildings. If I was building production buildings, that would change completely. There's no way that I would ever put a subpar citizen in a production building, especially if I was producing glass or concrete, because the cost, the opportunity cost of getting one less unit of concrete in a collection is huge, because your requirements and what it costs you to produce that concrete stays flat, but you get less for it. So it's you have to invest in really, really good citizens for production buildings. I think industrial and energy, you can get away with it a little bit more. It's a lot more flexible. Yeah, Bob, what are you thinking about buying? The massive collection is it's in Ethereum. It's not in Tron. In Tron, I'm lost. I'm one of the little kids on the playground, just trying to find my way, hoping nobody bullies me. I'm really impressed with the operations that have been built on Tron, because what's cool about Tron is everybody who's building in Tron, they've been able to learn from the Ethereum side. They've been able to learn from exactly what has worked and hasn't worked, and everybody's been able to build really focus on IP. So you've got a whole bunch of very, very like highly efficient operations, whereas on the Ethereum side, people are a lot more spread out. You've got a bunch of buildings that like they were built, but they're not optimized. That's what excites me about the Tron side, is that becoming as a second chain, you're able to look back, and that hindsight is super valuable. Whereas Ethereum didn't have that. Ethereum was the primary chain, was the only chain, and therefore that map is going to have to evolve and mature at a rapid pace if it wants to be able to have the efficiency that the Tron map does. When will Lady Baba should be coming to play? So my hope is that we get World rolling and MCP deploys it in the right way, and then that scholarship model opens up free to play, and Lady Baba will handle all of the administrative affairs of scholars and like the day-to-day stuff for MCP in lieu of her working. And then eventually, hopefully in the next 1, 2, 3 years, I'm able to stop working as well and focus solely on this. So there's definitely avenues to monetize. Like, I'm sure that at some point I could monetize the stream in some way, shape, or form. We've got MCP HQ with Baller, we can monetize that. But for me right now, it's just about getting content out, making sure as many people who are curious and inquisitive have a way to ask questions and get at least a semi-objective or subjective response, and in a safe space, right? Because some of this stuff you don't necessarily want to ask in Discord because some people will pounce on you, right? Brainstorm Saturday. Yeah, Pulsar, I love it. So the cool thing about the Saturday time slot is because of the timing, I think it allows for pretty much anybody to join. And I love the idea of the open-ended, like, brainstorm, but also I really want to be able to have, when new people come in, and if you've looked in Discord, there's a lot of new people coming in. They have got questions. Have like an office hour type stream where if you have questions, just join the stream. Ask them in chat. I'll walk through it. I can do like little tutorials. I can fly to different parts on the map. We can look at stuff. It'll be a lot more hands-on and interactive. So that's definitely an option. We just have to get that. We don't have the critical mass yet to have enough new people coming in to actually have that consistently, I think. But that is 1,000% a plan for the hopefully near future, is that there will be one dedicated day at least once every 1 to 2 weeks, specifically. Whoa, congratulations, Tarantino, brand new office. There will be one day specifically geared towards helping onboard new players. Pulsar, the real question is, does Lady Baba know about her incoming job? Honey, do you know? I don't know. I think she does. We've talked about it. We almost jumped into Axie. When I saw Vitaly and his wife managing their Axie empire together, I got there was a little relationship goals FOMO there. I think she's aware. I don't know if she fully understands just how serious and passionate about this I am. I think she does, but I'm not sure. Cider question, do you sell land directly to players? New players can contact you. I actually, Cider, believe it or not, I really don't sell much at all. I don't sell land because anything that I buy with a specific reason in mind. So I don't buy land to flip. I buy it to hold for a specific reason. And then as far as the materials I produce, everything that I produce right now on Tron just goes towards building more. And then on the Ethereum side, I actually believe, like, while I think maybe I think Kevin produces roughly the same amount of energy and water as I do. Slats probably outproduces a bit. I know Baller has a massive footprint as well. But even though I'm one of the largest producers of energy and water, I really don't even sell energy or water either because I use it myself. So I'm hoping that with World there will come a day when I can sell stuff, but I also try to avoid doing any of that stuff too because, again, depending on where regulations net out and for accounting purposes and taxes, I don't know how that's going to affect me. So I try to self-produce and use myself for the most part. Oh, Bob, you're C Crypto. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Bevins asks, I may have missed this, but when do you think you will complete your ETH operations to potentially bring some ETH capital into Tron? Oh, that is the golden question. So the great news is on the Ethereum side, I finished my 6th energy mega. So now I have 6 energy megas and 3 water megas. I have 1 more planned mega to build. I'm still trying to figure out if it's going to be energy or water. I think to maintain the ratios I need for steel and the energy to water ratio, I have to build, it's going to be an energy. And then I need to optimize my water plants because they are terrible. But I've got, I want to finish building that last mega in District 130. And then from that point on, pretty much anything that I do can be brought over into Tron. So I think timing's going to be perfect, that I'll be able to wrap up that, produce 70 units of steel per day, and then anything that I build or make on the Ethereum side, I no longer have commitments for. Right now I'm committed to finishing that project. But after that, I have no deals in place, nothing that says that I need to build another mega or anything like that. So it'll be a nice time to either take a breath and start to accumulate some capital or immediately start putting that capital to work on the Tron side. I love that we've got some wheeling and dealing happening in chat. So yeah, I mean, when all is said and done, the biggest difference between my Tron strategy and my Ethereum strategy is that they are literally polar opposites. On the Ethereum side, I have almost no industrial footprint. I've got a mega mixer and a mega smelter, which I use solely for the purpose of powering 2 mega steel plants. And on the Tron side, I've got no plans to build production and very little need to build energy. So if you were to actually combine my Ethereum operation and my Tron together, they would form a massive, very balanced supply chain. But separately, the Tron side is going to be really imbalanced, at least for now. I think I bank a little bit on, again, like Bevan said, the opportunity, if things take off in the game, I don't necessarily need to build a concrete plant because I can always produce the steel. If concrete's in demand, I know that steel's in demand in World. And therefore, I'll just produce the steel and sell the steel and use that proceeds to buy the concrete or swap steel for concrete with somebody. So my assumption is that while I can't directly lift and shift materials from Ethereum to Tron, I'm going to be able to use that footprint, that supply chain, to make it easier and cheaper for me to build on the Tron side. These are some good questions today. These are some good questions. And I think on the Tron side too, I spent a lot more time focused on what am I going to need to provide to the district to help grow the district. It's actually not so much about building out a supply chain for myself to produce materials to make money. It's what's the most financially responsible way to build out a footprint that can support the growth and development of the district. Chingo, I missed your note on 31288. I can definitely take a look at that. Not there. Check this out. Chingo. All right, so 216, level 3 commercial. All right. B45s. Okay. And then let's see who you have. You got Ted. You got Ted, and let me guess. Oh, not Ted. Oh, Tuz, which is another bot. Okay, so you're surrounded by 3 bots. So the good news is Ted is contactable, right? He's on Discord. He's shown that he's there. So you can always reach out to Ted. This doesn't have to be a dead site. The other good thing is you got a commercial here. This could become, you can use this for a bus stop in the future. Now the tricky part is because you're on the coast and because you don't really have much going in front over here, a bus stop here might not be super critical or important, but you do have land that's adjacent to the beach. So if you think about it from a like placement and position, the land itself is probably more valuable than the building itself. It's tough because if you were able to get this plot or this plot, it would probably make it that much better because now there's a lot more you can do with it. I don't know. I'm not sure how many times people have used this commercial. I mean, the thing too is there's, as Bevins will tell you, there's really no need for a level 7 commercial. It's kind of overkill at this point until lots of people start using Gen D, E, and F citizens. You're really not going to need that level 7 commercial. But I don't know. That's a tough one. It's tough because you're kind of blocked in over here. But you hold the land. That land should be really nice for Mega World because it's on the water. It's on the beach. Kevin says it would be ideal to have a dex to somehow make the bridge you're referring to in between ETH and Tron World. As yeah, it's got to be done between players, and that's the tricky part, right? Because if you're thinking about how do we provide or create an equitable agreement for somebody who plays on one map or the other, swapping materials, where you're not actually sending Ethereum materials to Tron, you're just sending Ethereum materials to this Tron player's Ethereum account, and then they're sending their Tron materials to your Tron account. You got to factor in a couple things, right? You have to factor in the exchange rate of that material to Mega. Then you have to take that Mega and you have to convert it into local fiat. And then you've got to go over to the other chain and look at the value of their Mega relative to fiat. And it's just like this whole process, which is quite painful. So yeah, anything that could be done to say like, hey, it's those exchange rates, like, right? If you're player to player, if you're swapping steel for concrete, here's what it should be. It should be, 2 units of concrete for every 1 steel, or whatever the case is. Oh yeah, Pulsar, that's a good point. So on Pulsar's note, keep it for custom, right? So maybe it's a little bit limited for microeconomy buildings right now, but for a custom building, that could be really nice. That's a great point. Kyle, do I have a YouTube that I archived to yet? Not yet. I'm one of those people that, so normally I honestly had no plans to start streaming until like 2022. But eventually you just have to jump in and do it. What I want to be able to do is I want to take the videos that we have on Twitch that are live, get those over to YouTube so that they can live in perpetuity there. My biggest challenge is I don't know how to edit. I know how to do nothing. Like, I'm just barely able to get this stream up and running and remember to hit record. So ideally, yes, there will be a YouTube channel. I'd also like to get around to doing like tutorials versus live discussions, which Eric will never let me forget. He always tells me I have to start doing that stuff. It'll probably be one of those things where I would focus more on pre-recorded content for YouTube at the point when I no longer have to work my day job. So it's one of those tricky parts, like cart before the horse, chicken or the egg situation, where in order for me to really, I think, unleash my full potential in MCP, I have to be able to do that pre-recorded content and be able to do stuff through YouTube and really monetize my brand and my content versus just my stuff in game. But in order to do that, I have to quit my job. But I can't quit my job until I'm able to monetize myself to the level that I can maintain, my lifestyle for my family. So it's a tricky one. But yeah, if you have any pointers or any ideas, or if anybody in the community wants to help, like I'll record stuff and you help me edit, I would be all for that. We'll get that stuff up as soon as possible. Cider asks, what benefits we can have if a level 3 and build a bus stop at 70, at X 70, Y 60? Let's check it out. 70, Y 60. District 252. Right. Let's do this a little bit. Also, while we're here, for anybody who is not aware, there is a cinematic mode on the map. So if you see any of the screenshots that I take for MCPHQ or anything else, if you click on a non-building, it's like a road or a path, a plot of land that you can't actually interact with, and then hit C, that will open up cinematic mode, and you can actually do this. You can zoom in, you can go like this, and you can pan the camera, and you can use a scroll wheel to pull this back farther. So in case anybody's ever wondering, toggling C on and off is cinematic mode, and then to kill it, you just click on a road or a plot, hit C again, and it's gonna bring you right back street level. All right, so Cider, back to your question. So yeah, so you can place a bus stop here. The cool thing about a bus stop here is you've got the footpath, and if the footpaths play any role in like coordinating traffic, it's right there. I imagine too that crosswalks are going to play a role. Right now, the gameplay in the Mega World Alpha is unconstrained, but I would think that crossing streets, you would have to use a crosswalk. For this one, I mean, the good thing here is, again, you've got land next to you, right? So it's not cheap, but it's there. Not so good is next to you. He's contactable via Discord. So the good thing is with this site, you've got all the makings if you wanted to go to a mega, or alternatively, if you wanted to make this into a custom, you've got your bus stop here, and you can always build something over here. Bevins, do I plan on building a Baba Tower in 214 as custom? I kind of do. It's tough because now I'm starting to get into this place where there's more stuff that I want to build than I can actually afford to build. But my hope is that at some point, when I'm done with the transportation stuff and I'm done with the industrial stuff, Lord knows that there's going to be something else that's going to pop up, and I'm like literally just never going to be able to get to it. But right over here, I've got the makings of what would hopefully become a 2x4. Where I have these 3 plots and these 2 plots. Ted owns this plot. I'm sure he would hold out for money for that one, so I'm not going to get that anytime soon. And then these 2 plots here are about 10,000 Tron apiece. But I do have the ability to turn this into at least something, either a 2x2 large custom building. It could go to a 3x3 without needing Ted, and I can drop a bus stop over here in this corner spot. But yeah, this would be the place because it's on the water. It's on the water, and this is also an area too that I really want to see develop with custom buildings. So I think having a large tower there as a nice little landmark would be appropriate. Patreon. You know, I've heard that before, but I don't actually know what it is. I need to look into that. Oh, Hustle, I had a New York accent when I said water? Oh boy. I suppose there are worse accents to have. Coffee break. It's a good idea to continue leveling up. At 214, 134. Cider with the questions today. Love them. 214. 134. I suppose I should be caveating all of this with this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check this out. So you own all of this? Oh, nice. Okay, good. So you own each of these. I think it all depends, Cider, right? It depends on what you're trying to do. In my opinion, if you're building for the future and you believe that Mega is going to appreciate or that the material market is going to be critical, it makes all the sense in the world to, if you can afford to it, build for level 7. It doesn't, to me, you either have to have an army of level 1s that you staff with like crappy citizens and cheap land, or you want to focus your time and attention on building a mega site. It's called MegaCryptoPolis for a reason, so I have to think that their design is intentionally weighted towards making level 7s a lot more powerful compared to level 6s or level 5s. The tricky part becomes when you're leveling these buildings up, though, right? Because if you're like me and you have some slight OCD, you want to, like, you level this up to level 2, then you do this one level 2, level 2, level 2, level 3, level 3, and you keep going around. But the problem is when you do that, now you need to keep buying more citizens, which you could have used that money to invest in more materials or upgrade fees. So for me, whenever I was building out my first couple megas, nowadays, as I upgrade them, I don't staff citizens in the upgrades. I staff the level 1s, and then I upgrade until I get to level 6, then I staff the level 6, upgrade the other 2, and then I don't go out and buy the remaining citizens until I reach level 7. But in this case, you could use these 3, produce materials, and just focus on upgrading this from level 2 to level 3, level 3 to level 4. And if you don't have the citizens, leave it dormant, or alternatively, take your citizens out from these 3 buildings and drop it in there. But usually, a handful of level 1s can outproduce, from a cost effectiveness ratio, can outproduce some of the like the level 2, 3s, and 4s. Sevens, will your branding be the same for both worlds, or would I make them different? I think the same, right? So in my mind, when I came over to Tron, my brand in MCP is obviously my name, but corporate brand is MROM. So in my mind, Tron District 214 is a holding of MROM, and therefore anything that I do business as in either Ethereum or Tron will be the MROM corporate brand. But anything that I do, like if I was doing consulting or anything like that, that would be me, because I think right now there's more equity in my brand versus that corporate brand. But in the future, hopefully that actually changes and that MROM brand becomes the more valuable, more prestigious brand. And I can do a lot more stuff with that. Right now, that's just not the case. And I apologize. If anybody's asked questions and I've missed them, please ask them again and keep asking them until I answer them. I'm still figuring out multitasking. Will we be able to transfer citizen from Tron to the ETH side? So, Bob, that's a great question. I think you ask 10 people that question, you probably get 10 slightly different answers. And if you ask MCP that, I don't think you actually get a confirmed answer. A lot of people have concerns that what will happen is that concept of the airport would allow somebody to transfer a Ethereum citizen to Tron to be used in a Tron building and vice versa. I think that was the way that MCP had talked about it originally. Personally, I don't think that's the case. I think what will end up happening is the concept of citizens will evolve over time so that it's not, the asset itself is not, it's a citizen NFT, but when all is said and done, the role it plays is an avatar. And your avatar, if you're using a citizen as your avatar, that will be able to be moved from Ethereum to Tron, Tron to Ethereum interchangeably. It's who you are. It's not, somebody that's in a building. But a citizen bred on Ethereum would not be able to be moved over to also be bred on Tron. There's a world where if they open the doors to free-to-play in that Scholar model, it actually won't make a massive difference one way or the other, whether those citizens can be transferred between chains, because every citizen is going to actually be an avatar. So you don't actually any longer need to worry about this influx of breedable citizens in Ethereum or Tron, because the demand will be so high. 57,000 citizens on Ethereum, there's probably less than 15,000 on Tron. And therefore, there's not even enough citizens for 100,000 scholars to come in. And we know that when the door gets open to that, there should and could be millions of people that come in. Yeah, no problem, Sutter. It's tough, right? Because, like, to Bevan's point, you're missing energy, which isn't ideal. You're missing office, which isn't ideal. However, you do have the land nearby that you can drop level 1 offices. You could also always say, I mean, very few people are going to want to build an office over here. So you can't really incentivize somebody that says, hey, if you build an office, I'll give you the kickback for the land that you buy or the materials. We could always try that too. That's worked out really, really well for some folks in 2.14. You would have to build this knowing that your IP is never going to be perfect. But it's an industrial, and you can get away with not having perfect IP. I'm assuming is this your monument? Is this somebody else's? Oh, this is Blue's. Okay. So, like, if you put a monument here, you're going to be able to make up for the fact that you're missing some critical IP. Yeah. So the IP here is low, but it's low because you're getting hit so hard by other industrials. So a monument over here makes this site viable as a level 7. Without the monument and without other offices around it, it's probably, to Bevan's point, it's not, bang for the buck is not there. But with a little work, this could be a productive site. Bob asks, how will they fix the low citizen rate, especially when the majority of citizens are currently being used in buildings and stuff? So what we were talking about the other day, and if you haven't had a chance, Bob, there's the video that's available on playback on my Twitch channel from Thursday, was talking all about this. And what would theoretically happen is that each of our citizens, all citizens would be available to function as avatars. And therefore, you wouldn't have this world where a citizen is either appointed in a building or an avatar. Every citizen would be backed by a single free-to-play player. And you wouldn't actually have to staff your buildings anymore and have somebody locked in a building for 24 hours. Because even in realism, like, people aren't, stuck inside a building. Well, I suppose there are some cases. People aren't stuck inside a building for 24 hours a day to produce something. You wouldn't actually have to choose one or the other. It was just all citizens become avatars backed by free-to-play players who are then going around performing the tasks of appointed citizens. And the only time you would have citizens that are truly appointed might be maybe in your passive income buildings. Maybe offices actually do need, like, you have to appoint citizens there. And residentials, if you're breeding, that citizen's tied up. You can't have somebody using that as an avatar going around the city. But a lot to talk through there. Andy asks, how is production tax calculated? It is a % of what? The final amount produced on collection. So I make, for example, 200 wood with 10% tax. I would really only get 180 wood. So not quite, right? So the tax rate is not on your actual yield. The tax is independent and agnostic of what you actually produce, which is why it's so important that you find yourself in a district with tax policies that are beneficial for you. What will occur is your tax rate. Let me see if I can pull a building up here and show you. I can show you. I wonder if I have anything ready to collect. Oh, 10 hours. Okay, so your tax rate here, if we're looking at this, hopefully you can all see that. I think that's large enough. Let me make this bigger for a second here. All right. So if we're looking over here on the right-hand side, I'm producing stone. My estimated supply for this level building is going to be somewhere between 57 stone and 286. My actual yield, which I can tell you is 200, I think 204. But it's going to require me to burn 4,286 energy, 357 water. So those supplies need to be in my balance up here. And then I need a total of 12.43 Tron in my in-game balance up here. So what occurs with the taxes? So construction taxes, I think we cracked the code on that fairly easily. But what's interesting is I think that the way things are actually calculated is the fees are what drives everything. So your fees are calculated. And then if you notice, your taxes are always 2x the fees. So if I were to change the industrial production tax from 5% to 25%, I'm not actually changing this amount. I'm changing this amount, which in turn is changing this amount. If that's I'm sure I've probably lost people because the way I just articulated that is absolute crap and why I'm not a teacher. But suffice it to say, my tax policies impact this number right here, this 4.14. And then this 8.28 is determined based off of that 4.14. So you will always see the taxes are 2x the fees. But my tax policies are indirectly determining this 8.28, but it's directly determining the 4.14. Kind of messy, right? And that's why the labeling here is all sorts of crazy. If you almost have to ignore these labels, and it's almost like this becomes your tax and this becomes your fee. It's labeled weird. But Andy, to answer your question, it's going to be the percent is going to be based off of the base fee, which I can show you. Handy dandy little guide here on MCPHQ. And here's how you can start to back into that number. So if you come to mcphq.io, and you come here under Building and Construction Guide. It's going to take a little while to load up. There's a lot of stuff here. Joe, how's it going, man? I'm going to get to your question in 1 second. Great question, though. All right, so here's your Building and Construction Guide. And Andy, what you can do is you can come over here and let's pull up, let's assume we're gonna stay with industrial. Max, thank you for posting that link. I appreciate it. We're gonna stay with industrial. This is gonna bring you down and it's gonna show you, it's gonna give you the rundown of essentially everything that's important to know about your industrial buildings. And we have this for every type of building. What buildings help and hurt your IP and in what quantities and to what degree. What traits are important. Oh, see, Max, you were part of this stream. See, I had it right for industrial. I had it wrong for production, energy and strength. Sorry, little inside joke. All right, so we're going to go to the mixer, right? So for the mixer, here's all of your base costs. So whenever you look at the Ethereum cost or your Tron cost on this guide, Andy, this is assuming a 0% tax. This is the actual amount that's buried in the contract that says, before you apply the tax rate for this district, here's how much this action is going to cost in both Ethereum and Tron. Now, what we can do, I'm producing stone. So if you were looking at this for sand, you could look at it for sand, but we'll skip down over here to stone. And this is the actual base cost. So Andy, when we were looking at my building, what you'll see is in total to collect from this level 6, it's going to cost me 12.43 Tron. What this says over here is a level 6, which collects every 2 days. The base cost in a 0% tax district is going to be 11.835 Tron. So your delta of 12.43 and 11.83 is the impact of my tax policies in 214 on this building. And if we look at it, we're going to see that my tax for industrial and production collections is 5%. So using all that information, use the guide where it shows the base fee, pre-tax impact, and then use the actual amount that it appears on that building to determine what that variable is in the formula. I think we know what the formula is. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But that's the general gist. All right. So Joe has a really, really good question here. All right. So Joe asks, is it good to jack up taxes to make more money? And I think you could ask multiple people this and get different answers as well. So Joe, what I would say is yes in some ways, no in others. And I'll explain both. Right? So let me zoom out a little bit. So for me specifically, Joe, I've got all my taxes extremely, extremely low. And the reason for that is a couple things. The biggest reason is, as a district owner, every time you increase the taxes, for every additional, let's call it Tron, that somebody pays because of increased taxes, I only see 17. So let's instead of saying Tron, we'll say dollars. For every $1 that I get in incremental taxes, or that somebody pays in incremental taxes, as the owner, I only get 17 cents of that incremental dollar. That other 83 cents goes out to the global fund and the district fund and to MCP. So to me, if it was different, if district owners got more than 17% of the taxes, I could make a case that yes, putting in taxes at a higher rate is proportionally helpful to the district owner. However, my perspective is, when I raise taxes, I'm only getting 17% of that incremental revenue. Everything else is leaving my district. 33% is going to MCP. So 33% of that extra dollar that somebody's spending to build or to collect goes directly to MCP. 25% goes to the global fund. Another 25% goes to the local district fund, and I only get 17. So every incremental dollar comes out of somebody's pocket, I get a very, very small portion of. So as a district owner, it's actually, I believe, it's not in my best interest to have high taxes, because all I'm doing is I'm exporting more of that money out of my local economy to the broader global economy, where maybe indirectly it's helping me, but it's not actually directly helping me, and it's hurting the land developer. Because the difference is going to be, if in my mind, I would rather have you keep more money in your pocket because you spend less in taxes and build more in the district. So to me, it's a numbers game. It's all about volume. Get people to build high-level buildings as cheaply as possible so that they can collect every single day, which will in turn give me a lot more revenue over the course of the year than if they were just collecting from level 1s or level 6s. And then ideally what's going to happen is, with the money that they're saving in a low-tax district, instead of building 1 mega and being done, they're building 2, they're building 3, because they can actually build 2 megas in my district for the price of 1 mega in a district that has 100% sales tax or construction tax. Yeah, crypto, 75%, and this is going to go to 100%. And the reason for that, it's the one weird place where I say, like, nope, I'm going to be selfish here, is the objective is to make District 214 ultra premium. And one of the best things that I can do that helps everybody is continue to do everything that I possibly can to increase the value of the land, so that if you own land and you want to sell it, you can sell it for more than you paid for it. And for the district owner, that land price setting, that determines how much revenue you get every time somebody buys an unsold plot. So to me, the name of the game is, I'm not making a lot of money in taxes. I'm making more now at a very, very low tax rate than I would at a higher rate, because there's a lot more people building and building confidently. But for me, on the back end, as more people build, and there's a lot of megas here, so like Tarantino, Bevins, like all the guys that have come in and built a large footprint, they're largely done, right? Then maybe they build another mega or two, but most of their stuff is done. So I'm not going to get a ton of money from construction taxes. I really need my land revenue to jump up as the district continues to mature and world comes out. And therefore, I'm going to use that to drive all of my proceeds so that I can keep taxes super low. Yeah, I don't know, Joe. I thought there was somebody in chat the other day that somebody asked about whose address is this, and it was the address that bid on the district, and it was somebody that came in and said, I think that's my address. I forget who it was, but yeah, that district that's a really small district. 430 something land plots. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one. And he says, okay, so multiply base tax by the percent applied by district owner will give total taxes, which is then shown subdivided in taxes and fees. I think so, Andy. I think so. Yeah. If not, you're like dangerously close to yes. But essentially, your fee amount is what is first. You apply the tax rate to the base amount that you see on MCPHQ. That informs your fee structure, and then you multiply the fee by 2 to get your tax amount, and those two things combined equal the total. But I bet you within the next 24 hours, you're going to reverse engineer the crap out of that, and you're going to be able to answer that for me. Yeah, Joe, 400 plots, like, it's tiny. It's tiny. I looked at that district, and I couldn't. The nice thing is, it could be a phenomenal district for industrial, because 1 out of every 10 plots in that district has resources. So it's going to be a crappy district for residential, because everything's so close. There's always going to be industrial built around because of the proximity to energy, and because it's a smaller district, residential is really not going to have a lot of room to thrive. But that could be a district somebody buys. Maybe they hold it until World comes out and it just becomes like a custom building district, which would be pretty cool. We haven't seen that happen yet. But yeah, I wouldn't, if I had that money, I would not be buying that. But only because I don't see the value proposition district ownership yet. I think it's really close, but I think MCP needs to do something to adjust. That 17% for district owners just isn't enough. And then when you consider, like in my case, I've done all this stuff to create all this value for Ted. And look, Ted is in a great position. And now the problem is, for every additional investment I make in the district, Ted's lands become more and more valuable. But Ted bought that land at the district opening for 200 Tron. And that's what I get a portion of, his 200 Tron. When he goes and he sells a plot of land for 5,000 Tron, 10,000 Tron in the future, I get nothing of that. And that's the part that, like, that's got to change. That's, in my opinion, that's all sorts of messed up. So in order to incentivize district owners to continue investing in the district to create more incremental value for the landowners in their community, you have to give district owners the ability to enjoy a slice of that profit in the future. Because then you've got this ecosystem of nothing but win-wins, where I can continue to do everything I can to drive and make sure that the land value increases, because every time somebody sells a plot of land to somebody else for a profit themselves, I'm getting a cut of. Joe, I agree with you completely, buddy. One of the things that I'm really excited about being a district owner, besides the ability to really grow a community and be part of a community, because to me, like, I come in here every day and I look in the 214 chat, and it's alive, it's vibrant, and I know when all is said and done, I've got like my group of people that I can just shoot the breeze with. But being a district owner, when World comes out, there's so much that MCP can do with that metaverse layer. And as the district owner, literally every single activity that occurs in District 214, I should be getting a cut of in some way, shape, or form, or being able to devise policies to influence the way that this district and the community grows in the future. Also, I agree that owners should get taxed from every transfer of lands, even if there's no price involved. Yeah, it's tough. And the other problem too, and this is an issue not just for district owners, but for MCP specifically. How many times do we see somebody come into the MCP Discord and talk about, like, oh, the volume on MCP is so low. Volume on MCP is so low because so many people do major deals through, player-to-player trades, wallet-to-wallet transfers. They don't use the in-game interface. You know, if you're going to, if I'm going to buy a building from Bevins, I'm not going to put it on the in-game marketplace and buy it off of him there because, well, Bevins loses 3.5% on top. So if I trust Bevins, I'm going to go and I'm going to send him the Tron right to his address, and then, you know, he's going to send me the building. And there we go, we're done. But MCP doesn't get credit for that volume. So all these transactions occur for materials, for building, for land outside of the four walls of the game. So all these different reporting tools that are out there, DAppRadar and everybody, when they look, they don't actually see any of that volume. So it looks like MCP has a lot less volume than it actually does. Oh, and Joe too. Like, so your question about the district and taxes, I think that like I would actually, one of my plans is I'd love to spend more time talking specifically, like another stream specifically about just district ownership, management, development, taxes, and all that stuff. So if you guys think that would be helpful, I'd love to have another dedicated stream specific to that. We can dive even deeper into that. And Pulsar, one of the other things too, and it's actually ironic because lots of people who would be impacted by this actually tend to support the idea. The other challenge is when you look at all the districts, we talked at the very beginning of the stream about the office tax policy. And the office tax policy, it's tricky because so many district owners jack that rate up to 100% because they want to protect the district fund for themselves. And that's completely understandable because they need the district fund to really make the district super profitable because they're not getting a cut of enough of the activity in their district. However, when you do that, what happens is you don't have people building offices. And when people aren't building offices in your district, the biggest issue is you're closing the door to one of the biggest drivers of IP, because when an office is placed on a plot of land, the nearby land immediately becomes even more valuable for production buildings, for industrial buildings, and for residential buildings, and even for other offices. So you've got 4 different buildings now that would really, really benefit from having that office. But if your office taxes are at 100%, nobody's going to build them. So you really shut the door to a lot of highly valuable IP zoning by having offices taxed that high. So if district owners actually, like if on this control panel, if we open this up and one day MCP said, hey, you know what? We're going to expand the ability for district owners to adjust their policies. And there was a new slider here for office tax. And I'm not talking about like your construction tax. I'm talking about your collection tax. If I was able to get just 1% of every Tron that was collected passively from the offices in my district, whether it be a business center or a district office, wouldn't that incentivize me to be much more friendly with my construction taxes for offices? Because now I'm getting a cut of it. And it's 1%. So what's 1%? If you make 500 Tron per day from a mega business center, are you going to miss 1 Tron? No. Hell, even if it was a slider from 1 to 5%, you're not going to miss it that much, and it's going to mean a lot to me. Plus, more people are going to drop those taxes down. It's going to allow people to build those offices cheaper, which means your ROI is going to be quicker. So, and it also increases the importance of you building with district owners that you can trust, because you know that, listen, when all is said and done, I have to at least try to break even throughout the course of developing this district, but I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt you. Right? So even if I have the ability to tax office collections from 1 to 10%, I'm not going to tax at 10% because that'd be just absolutely insane. 1%, 2%, yeah. 3, maybe. Beyond that, no. I just need a little bit to ensure that I can continue to grow the district myself. Mix. I don't think a tax for NFT transfers is technically possible because the transfer functions are not payable. Oh. That's interesting. Okay. So would that mean that the only way for that to actually occur would be for it to go through the marketplace? Because right now, marketplace, anything that's bought or sold on the marketplace, there's that, what, like 2.5%, 3.5% commission or fee that MCP takes. But that's presumably hard coded, and it's not actually a slider setting. That's really really interesting. I'd love to learn more about that. Evans, thank you so much, man. Have a great one. Joe, lowering office taxes. Yeah, I think it's important, right? There's a reason to keep them at 100% for sure, but there's also a reason to bring them down low. Like, I've got my office taxes at 5% because I'm not building offices. I committed to my community. I'm not building a district office because this district fund is for you. You guys are the ones that are building this fund. You guys are the ones that are delivering all this growth. Build and reap the rewards from that. And I'm good with that. If I ever build offices, I would build business centers. Or if the community said, like, no, like, we really, like, it's completely okay, please build a mega office for the district, we're okay with that, then maybe I would. But that district fund is theirs. How has it already been 2 hours? How? I don't know. Well, I think we covered a lot today. What I was really excited about is a bunch of new faces. Joe, thank you for the follow. A whole bunch of new faces. Lots of amazing questions. Cider, I love the idea of giveaways. The cool thing is I've got the ability to give stuff away myself on both the Ethereum side and the Tron side. So I'm going to try to work something out for that. I don't want it to take away. I don't want it to be one of those things where people come to the stream because they're getting free stuff. The free stuff is the content and the knowledge and just the engagement. But I would love to figure out how to work that in some way, shape, or form. So definitely an awesome idea there. Isn't it 3 hours? Pulsar, are you trying to convince me that I committed to a 3-hour stream? I think I have to maintain a certain minimum number of hours streamed per week if I want to be an affiliate, which then gives me the ability to allow you guys to stream in different qualities. So as I stream in 1080p, if you have a Wi-Fi connection that's giving you a hard time, you want to stream in 720, you can. 4. Joe, I appreciate that. Thank you. So what questions do you guys have? Does anybody have any questions? I mean, specifically about the my Tron operation and strategy or District 214? Tell you what, the 10 to 12 second lag between when I talk and you guys hear me makes for some really, really awkward pauses. How is my hair so good? My hair drives me crazy. I'm Italian, so I'm naturally a little bit hairier, and I don't know. It does its thing. No problem, Kevin. Thank you for joining me. And I appreciate it. These streams started because I wanted to show people that, look, we don't know who MCP is, but you do know who I am, right? So the bare minimum, like, there's anonymity in the team, but look, somebody else in the community is willing to come out and show their face and talk and just be them. Like, I'm still coming to you as Baba, not my true identity, but I'm here. It's me. And like, for me, the passion you guys are bringing to these streams and the questions, it's like, legitimately, I understand now why people are like, oh my gosh, you people are amazing, everything. Like, because it is. This is the energy, this is the motivation that when I woke up this morning at 9:30 and I was groggy and I didn't feel like doing anything, like, I wanted to make sure I was up and ready to go because you guys come in with such amazing questions and we're able to talk about stuff that's really, really cool that I can't talk to the missus about because she's sick and tired of hearing me talk about it and it's boring and like all that stuff, but it's not boring to us. Zalia, it did, man. It passed super, super quick. Far quicker than the Ethereum one. The Ethereum one, when I was going through that, I felt like I was dragging on. But Tron, I think because we've got the district components, there's a lot more we can go into. And you guys asked a lot more questions in this stream than the Ethereum did. So show off Mega World. Yeah, Joe, I think we got to do another. I feel like we should do another stream because the last one I did for Mega World, I simultaneously forgot to record it. And I also forgot to check the archive setting in Twitch, so that thing happened And as far as anybody's concerned, unless you were there, you don't even know what happened. Did have one person that recorded it, so I'm going to try to get it up on YouTube. But yeah, we'll definitely do a stream specifically about Mega World and kind of navigating through. We did spend some time. It's one of those, that stream specifically, we're going to have to go in and it's going to have to be a lot more conversational, because there's just not a heck of a lot of gameplay right now in the World Alpha. Yeah, Hustle, that's what I appreciate the most is that I've got somebody who is supremely supportive, knows that she's with a dork and embraces it and loves it, and hopefully this is something that I'm able to, in turn, from her support, actually convert it into something that means that she doesn't have to work anymore. She can focus on family and her hobbies and passions, and eventually one day allows me to leave my job and just do this stuff full time. Yeah, Joe, was MCP your first community? Because I know, I think you came into MCP and then kind of put an emphasis on NFTs in general, not just MCP, and you've got a whole bunch of folks and projects that you work with. It's awesome to see. Oh, Bob, don't tell the missus. Actually, I have some fun with her every once in a while. I'll go up to her and say, "Hey, did you just DM me? Are you CryptoCutie612?" Like, what? Who's that? Who's that bitch? What? No. It's fun. Yeah, Joe, I think there's gonna be the cool thing is that with some projects, somebody else has to fail for you to succeed. And what I like about this game is that I actually don't think, as much as some people think it's a zero sum, like in some ways it is, but isn't life zero sum? Like in general, isn't life nothing more than, in order for you to acquire some money, somebody else has to spend the money. That's just, it's an economy, right? But with this, I think what we're all starting to realize is we can help each other in this game, and all boats rise. You know, when I drop my taxes, I get a little bit less off the top, but everybody else can build a little bit more, and they save more money, so they can spend that money, and it helps everything lift. And when I build a building next to somebody else, and I help their IP, and they help me, there's a lot of stuff here where we can be competitive when it comes to our rates for how we sell materials, or in the future as we're building buildings and doing stuff with like rent and stuff like that, we can be competitive there, but it's not prohibitive for us to be collaborative while we're still being competitive. I'm gonna have to have one of these days, I'll have to have see if the missus wants to join. You guys can ask her some questions about what it's like to be stuck with me. It's real. Like, I will literally, I'm awake until 3 or 4 in the morning every single night, and it's because I can't stop thinking about this game, what we're going to talk about on stream, what's next for MCP HQ. Messy. Very, very messy. All right. I think this is a great place to call it. I'm going to work on a schedule. So next week will be the same thing. It's going to be a Wednesday and a Saturday stream. We had the special edition Thursday one because we had MCP, but it should be Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, which I know is tough for all the folks on like in Europe and there. I got to work out a better schedule there, because the problem is Monday through Friday I'm working, and I really can't make anything earlier work. So I'm trying to create this like one day that is really kind of like awesome timing for the US, and then another day like Saturday today where it's really good timing for everybody. I could potentially just focus on a Saturday and a Sunday. So as we go, like, let me know if there's certain days that work best for everybody, and I'll figure out how I can work it into my schedule. But I'll see hopefully everybody again on Wednesday. Content or topic will be TBD there. I'm going to figure that out. And then back here again on Saturday for some more topics. So I appreciate everybody being here. I'm gonna stick around and chat for a little bit. So if you have other questions, toss it in there. But This has been amazing. I love each and every one of you, and thank you so much, not just for joining and asking the questions, but continuing when you like, when you share, when you retweet stuff. Like it's an awesome feeling. So it's nice to feel appreciated. It's nice to know that the time that I spend talking to you guys about something that I truly love, it's not just me talking, it's actually of some value to everybody else. So thank you so much. I will catch everybody shortly. If you want to stick around and ask questions in chat, I'll be here for about another 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone.